We're live for Build Your Ag Dream Team. Welcome to the show. This morning, I put your banker and your accountant and your farm strategist and your financial consultant all at the same kitchen table. This is Build Your Ag Dream Team. And the 7 people on this panel are about to have the financial conversation that your farm might never have gotten to hear. And if you hear it now, you'll want to hear it. You want to hear it all the time, maybe every morning, if that were possible. But we're going to do it today. And my name is Dan Aberhart. Thanks so much for joining Growing the Future Live. Over the past month, we've had incredible engagement, and hopefully it's been great edutainment for you. I wanted to tell a quick story before we get started. It's a little bit personal. Evan, you might even know more about this than me, but a couple decades ago now, the family farm had a little bit of duress there, a little bit of challenges that sometimes happen. I was really proud of my younger brother for having the courage to build an advisory board. And that wasn't during the good times. That was during a really rough time when you had to humble yourself. And he opened the kimono, as we say, opened the books, and he sat down with a bunch of really successful people and said, I need help. What do you see? What can we do here? And the caliber of people that stepped up, I would say, was visceral, and it always inspired me because we are some of the 5 people that we spend the most time with, and we've assembled some of the most high quality people, superheroes, if you will, that I would argue are going to inspire a whole nother generation of insurance people and bankers and financial advisors going forward for all the kids watching on YouTube. But who we surround ourselves really define who we become. And I was in Arizona not too long ago and listened to my dad on an advisory board meeting, and who's coming through the Zoom call but Evan Shout. And I felt like, my inheritance as a non-farming sibling is in good hands. So that meant a lot. And I just wanted you to know, Evan, that your voice is very soothing to me in that regard. But my old man speaks super highly of you, and they got great help, and that's what this is all about, because I want that for everybody on the call. We've got over 100 attendees today. And this is about you and your questions, what you want to ask this oh so fancy panel. And by the end of this session, you'll get a feel of how these people actually work together. We did the green room yesterday, and they informed me, hey, we all know each other. We all work together between clients, and it's a very collaborative process. This isn't like a competitive situation. It's collaborative. So put your comments into the either the chat, or you can put them in the Q&A at any time, and I will direct the conversation that way. I'm going to go around the horn and do a quick little gimme for everybody. And I wanted to introduce our panel today. But before I do, I just wanted to say welcome to the iFarm Ag folks. Dean York usually holds an information meeting at this time, and so he graciously offered to amalgamate. He provides a lot of great information to his group. So they're here. I hope they ask questions today. Dean, if you want to say hi in the chat and put your website in there. And thanks so much for joining us. Meet our panel. They are oh so wonderful. If I haven't pumped their tires enough today, I'm going to continue to. First, we have Evan Shout, CPA, CFO, one of the greater grain operations in Saskatchewan, you could argue. He runs Farmer Coach. I love that concept. That's a great peer group that are teaching farmers how to be better. I think you want to be in that room. And he informed me he's working with farms not only across the prairie provinces now, like our family farm, but also right across Canada. He's gone national, and he's also gone international. They're into the States. Evan Shout, and he's a host of the so popular Truth About Ag podcast. Welcome to the show, Evan Shout.
Thank you, Dan. I'm thinking you're stretching on how many kids are watching this, but I'll keep your superhero comment just close to my heart for today.
Well, we're going to see a bump in the graph of how many young folks want to become bankers and insurers and lenders after this oh so illustrious call. Trust me. So it's great. We need another crop of them to replace Dean Klippenstein, let's just say. So God bless that great work. So, and then we have Brian Mack and Justin Simpkins from GoLytic. They run a personalized finance department for farms, manage a portfolio of close to 1 million acres, 1 million and growing. Well, welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, GrowLytics. I love that name. That's badass. Myers Norton Penny, We all know them. We all love them. Travis Gerard and Roxanne Olenek, more ag clients than any accounting firm in Canada, drum roll. And these two are on the front lines every day. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, not every day that an accountant gets to be superwoman, but I'll take it.
Today you are. So bask in it. And use your powers for good, by the way. We didn't write any villains into this story. But we might have a few villains out there, like the price of fertilizer or the Strait of Hormuz or certain people's speeches. Anyways, we won't digress too far into politics. And then last but not least, they're making these possible. They were the bank that stepped up to have that conversation about lending on the record-breaking Angelic episode. Courtney Thevenot and Tanner Gerwing from Scotiabank, our bank at the farm. Thank you for giving them the money.
Happy to be here. This is excited for today, and what a great group of folks to be in a room with, virtual room.
And you're like someone on the Avengers, because you're the person that would say Avengers assemble, Courtney, because you put this cast together because of each of their superpowers, right?
I think that's good. That gives a lot of credit, but this is a great group of folks, and we're all working together very well and supporting the industry. So this is a great group of people.
So there's not going to be any conflict or controversy then on the call today, like kind of
0%.
lowering the expectations on the controversy.
That would just be boring. That would be boring. Come on,
I
guys.
was gonna say we'll lose everybody.
Oh, you should have been in the green room, folks. It was heated agreements in the financial world. Well, let's get into it. Evan, I wanted you to comment. Yesterday, we were talking a little bit about the pie in farming and financials, and you talked about 2% of farms being way light years ahead, and 18% are moving fast and trying to close the gap. So if I'm trying to be financially astute like you guys are when I grow up, that leaves 80%. What would you say to the 80% out there that are recognizing it would pay to be more like the 20% or even the 2%?
I think the big one, Dan, is, I've commented enough on the TPAP stats that come out of the U.S. every year, the Texas A&M stats, and financially, the last 20 years, farms they haven't sustained it. They've actually gotten worse. So, as the numbers have gone up, as the risk has gone up, we've actually got less financial acumen in the industry today than we did over the last 20 years. So I think the big one is just understanding that finance has become front and center. It's kind of the last resort for farms. They care about operations. They care about sitting in the tractor cab. They care about production. That's what they were trained. That's what they're good at. The finance side tends to take a back seat. And I think in today's environment, as we're watching, as you said, the fertilizer prices, the grain prices and everything else, we're starting to realize finance has a bigger role than possibly production on some of these farms. So the big one is understanding your numbers, knowing your numbers, and honestly working with a group such as the one we have assembled today. And going back to your comment, is a lot of groups see this as competitors. I've been on a call with everybody on this screen right now. During consulting calls, I've got employees in our group that actually work with clients with all the other businesses on here. MNP, Roxanne, you and I worked well before I left, and we still work together on a whole bunch of clients. I think the big one is, and your catch line is, build the team. The team is what's going to get you across that financial hurdle, and the top 18 or the top 2, however you want to look at it, they're the ones who have put the team together, use their opinions, and then go out and make better decisions and real-time decisions with information that's up to date. Yeah,
Travis, I think it was you that was saying yesterday that it is really efficient to try and get all these folks together to rub shoulders now and then, because there's sort of that go around the horn and information translation. And you pick up the phone, well, this person said that, and that, the lawyer and the insurance person and the banker and the financial statistician said this. It's efficient to have a room like this at times, right?
Yeah, referring to that old game of telephone, sitting in the classroom, you start with one comment, and by the time you get to the end of the room, it's a completely different comment. It can be the same in business when you're advising. You have one room, and then all of a sudden, if you can get everybody in the same room, you're all on the same page, getting the same story, which is kind of nice. It's helpful.
I love it. So for the Growlytics guys, you were talking about yesterday, there's a difference between have, confusing financial access with strategic advice. And Courtney will probably touch on this later, but giving money is one thing, or getting money, or the ability to get money. You might get finance for that zero turn, but can you really afford it? We know, by the way, that John Deere credit's been, asking about financials more than ever, which could be a canary in the coal mine. But what do you see as the nuance, or where does it fit in between lending and what you guys do at Growlytics?
I think it's, to Evan's point, a little bit about the advisory piece. Like Growlytics started to reverse engineer the perfect credit deal. That's why we have Grow in the name. People, they know how to do the fundamentals like Evan talked about, but we tried to reverse engineer timely access to capital. So we really built Growlytics around serving the banks, obviously serving the farm, but serving the banks and then serving the accounting firms as well. So it literally started with basic bookkeeping we needed to clean up a little bit, because if you take it right to the end and reverse engineer that perfect credit deal, it starts with the pile of paper rolling around the seat of your truck that doesn't get into the system to tell your story to someone. So you may be awesome at farming and good at it and everything, but I think that's the key piece that we've found and continue to find still. That's why we get along so good. It's such a blue ocean out there. Like everyone's desperate for this service. And yeah.
I am not an engineer, so you have to explain to me the difference between reverse engineer and forward engineer, and when you do what and why.
Well, reverse engineering comes from, we were talking about the launch yesterday. So when NASA planted the flag on the moon,
right,
in the 60s or whatever, they reverse engineered it all. So what was the step just before they planted the flag, and reversed that whole process right down to who knows what, but to the very starting point of that process. So what people, I think farms don't quite understand is the finance. There's one thing to know your numbers and know your costs and know that, but it's another thing to know what numbers the banks are looking at, like debt service ratios and debt to tangible net worth and all these ratios that put you in the best light possible in front of the bank. And understanding that I would rather the client say that you never want to take bad deals to the bank, right, Courtney? You don't want your bank to tell you it's a bad deal. You need to know that. You don't need to even bring your bank into that discussion.
Courtney, is that true?
Part of the problem.
True. I mean, how do you view it? And does it behoove a farmer to only bring their best foot forward, or do they want to have honest and real conversations with their banker so you can plot to take over the world together?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a banking relationship should be an ongoing relationship and a partnership, and not just, we come to you only when we need something. There should be ongoing discussions so that we're, part of the planning and part of the conversations of the vision and what the operation wants to do going forward. And I would say that, when somebody is approaching us or asking for something, if they've sort of done the math themselves or worked with somebody to kind of figure out how this pencils out, how does this fit into their longer term strategy, have done some of that legwork, that helps us too. We can have those conversations and help walk them through that. But, if they're coming to the table with something, that speaks really highly of management strength and character too, which, from our side, the numbers have to work out, but equally important in any lending decision is reviewing like management and putting some thought around how these people are running their farm. Who are they bringing to the table? Who are they working with? Are they trying to do it all themselves? And, that all goes into the discussion of like, who are these people, and do we want to be in a relationship with them? Because it is a two-way relationship. So it's all part of the picture.
I love that. Tanner, I wanted to ask you, Evan has a book behind him there. It says Never Eat Alone. How often should a farmer be buying their banker lunch?
Well, it's likely the other way around, but yeah, we're based here in Saskatoon, so common hub for customers to come visit. And
nice.
Yeah, it's a great practice. Just meet for lunch. It works out well. At the very least, once a year. I like to visit boots on the ground at the farm at least once a year, visit the operation. So yeah, quarterly is great. Some customers, we have monthly calls set up or try to meet in person. So yeah, build the relationship. Regular communication goes a long way.
And how
Yeah.
often do you fight this battle on your own, or when do you bring in the other superheroes based on, if it's Thanos or just like a regular villain?
Yeah, it's really with Microsoft Teams or Zoom calls. We are able to get together quite easily nowadays. Bring in MNP, Gurlytics, Maverick Egg, whoever it is. So yeah, it's quite easy to do that virtually nowadays. In person might be limited to those weeks of crop production show or Egg in Motion to get everyone together. But
Well,
yeah.
we got 150 people on the call today, so it's super efficient. Courtney, you had a point there?
Oh, it was probably me trying to cut in.
Oh, sorry, Roxanne, cut in.
All good. I was just sitting on my hands here waiting.
Is gonna be her.
But
You're
no,
on.
I was just going to comment. I think gone are the days of, well, when you think of like your classic accountant, for example, well, we bring in our year-end stuff and we chat once a year, right? Like the more and more sophisticated these farms are getting and working with the people on the call. To Brian's point, it starts granular, right? But we're looking big picture. We got to know as a team, where are you going? Where's the next 3-5 years? Like forward thinking, meeting frequently, whether it's in person or virtually, but yeah, really believing in the power of bringing everybody into the room. I like it when clients joke, oh, the charge out rate in this room right now, but usually it's important enough to get everybody in there. It's worth the discussion. And to Travis's point, trying not to, sometimes it's difficult when you hear the conversation secondhand and piece together, what were you talking with Evan about? Or, oh, what did you and Trav talk about? And so, yeah, lots of power of having people like this in the room together with who we work with.
Well,
Yeah,
and I think
I would
I want
argue
to jump in on Roxanne.
cheaper to have everybody synchronized than having mistakes. Go ahead, jump in.
Well, I was just going to say, actually, I think it's the synchronate makes sense, Dan, but I actually find like some of our best clients want their advisors, a group of advisors, team advisors in that meeting together, regardless of the charge rate, because they actually want them to argue in front of them. It's almost like to come to this solution, like because we need to sharpen each other and sometimes our thoughts and our different perspectives in what we have. And that might even be, I saw a question about an agronomist, and so I just would jump on that.
Yeah.
It's like, we're in meetings with agronomists as well. And it's there's this mutual conversation to help that producer in regards to their strategy for the year, and also just fighting the war on costs on the farm right now and just looking at, what's the right solution here.
What if agronomists were actually part of your organization? Can we imagine that? Is that possible in some far off distant, multiverse? Oh, I'm setting up MMP here. Someone's got to take this. Come on. I mean, we're benchmarking to be the band now.
I was gonna say the benchmarking king here is Trav.
Oh,
It's
benchmark they call you?
Superman in the benchmark.
They call you Mr. Benchmark?
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess they could call it that.
Take it. Just run with it. Just take it.
Yeah, no, the agronomist in the room and the benchmarking has been super powerful. It's made my job 100 times easier to just use data to help explain to guys why costs are too high, or why costs are, why the accountant is talking to them on where their cost needs to be. I'm super fortunate to be able to come in with just data of, massive amounts of data for, I think we're covering 14% of Saskatchewan farmland, and we can kind of say, hey, these are your costs, and this is why we're saying you either need to lower them or increase them. And then we get to bring in agronomists now that they're on our team as well, and it is just so powerful to hear their conversation and tie it all together, put the numbers to the agronomy and tie the whole circle together.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, Travis, too, and we got Clipper on the call here, and he's going to comment or put up his hand this time. I promise I will get him on, not ignore him like previous times. But Travis, we were talking about the benefit, and I was talking about with Evan too. One thing that Christian did really well is he went to strategic coach and he 10X with a bunch of folks that were beyond agriculture, because sometimes we get that group think and we're kind of in a bubble. You were talking about having a trucker with incredible metrics in the benchmarking group that blew everybody's mind. And can we get there from here in the industry?
Yeah, so those out of the peer groups in the last couple of days here, we have some great farms coming together, just looking to learn more. They're always trying to do better. And, when you're at the top of the benchmark, it's pretty hard to give advice on that. But when you stick all 10, 15 farms in a room and they get to show their numbers and learn from each other, that's super powerful. And we had a great conversation with a company with trucking. It came in, and it's tied to agriculture, but it really opened the guy's eyes to how passionate he is about his numbers and how deep dove into his business he was. And that just motivated all those guys to they wanted to know about trucking costs and whether they should be hauling their own grain or doing that. So they're that granular of what decisions to make, but that just motivated them to know their numbers that much more, seeing the passion that he has in his.
Does anybody want to pick up on that? I think there's some really interesting stuff there.
I kind of want to just comment because I think that's an important piece to bring to the table, that it's, there you can know all your numbers in one area, and there's maybe somewhere else that you might not know everything like to the penny, or you might need to just get into the weeds a little bit more. And there's always room for marginal improvements in all the various categories, and where you can make those marginal improvements, especially in today's environment, can go a really long ways in the kind of future financial strength.
What if somebody came up with a 5% rule where you could be 5% better, and they would write a book and maybe do a book tour and start a podcast? Can you imagine?
You're onto something, Dan.
Evan, what do you think? Do you think that's a viable business plan?
Yeah, and I think, and Dan, you're going to love this one, but I think everybody in the call, we all know our unique abilities, right? Everybody here has a skill set that is different than everybody else, to be fair. Brian, I know you guys run with the banks a lot closer than I probably do, so I've brought in bankers on my back end to do it. Like there's those sides of it, and I mean from an operational metric, everything we do goes through the farm to make sure it works. Because if we're going to make a mistake, I'd rather do it on our operation than the ones we consult with. So no different than your trucking, Travis. We've actually got the tech within the farm now to pull all those same metrics that the trucking companies have, to know that, I mean, in 2 years ago, we made 250 grand by trucking our own grain compared to paying custom rates. So we know that not only is it it keeps our guys full-time busy all winter, but at the same time, we're actually not going backwards on it, which would be the benchmark for us, is not to waste money. But it's those interior metrics that I think everybody on this call has, whether it's with other clients or whether it's internally. Those are what the benefit is I don't go to MNP because they make the best set of financial statements in the industry. That's not the reason. The reason is that the value they provide from the clients they see, the benchmarking, the peer groups, all you guys. I don't go to Scotiabank because they are the best bank. There is 6 national banks. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I go there because the relationship managers and how they work within the teams on this call. And then with Growlytics, it may amaze people because I would say most think we're competitors, to be fair. And Brian, like you said, there's 16,000 farms that are greater than $1 million worth of revenue. There's 189,000 farms in Canada. I think there's enough of an ocean for everybody here. But the big one is we have different skill sets. And that's what the farmers should be looking for in their advisor group, is that everybody's bringing something to the table, whether it's value, whether it's different opinions, no different. Justin said, let's sit at a table and argue it out and come up with the best solution, not the solution that you just heard from one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah. Just to add to that, Evan, a bit, and add to Roxanne's comment, and this is a problem with our industry in general. We're all cost,
Mm-hmm.
and commoditization. So that's the number one thing we find when we come across new files is an accountant isn't a banker isn't a banker. Like, it's not glyphosate, it's not urea. Like, it's about ROI. It's not about cost. So if we start talking cost too much, I kind of lose interest. I care about ROI, and that's kind of where Evan's going. Like, you whatever, you get enough advisors in the room, like whatever Growlytics bills out, or MMP or Maverick, like you're going to get a 10x multiple. Like, it's not going to be 10%. It's going to be X massive multiples. It's almost good. It's going to likely be infinite returns on your capital.
Yeah,
just
like,
because
Go ahead,
what's the
Roxanne.
value of your time? Like, you go focus on growing a crop if that's what you're good at, and that's what people on this call are for, right? To bring them on board. And to your point, Dan, just about the advisory board, like, that's the whole point. You don't have to be a rock star at every single area of your business, and in fact, that's probably near impossible. So,
and the other
Yeah.
thing.
Go
And
ahead.
the other thing, Dan, that you're missing is that this group is an education group. So what I mean by that is we're not just going into a farm and making ourselves sticky and saying you have to work with us for the next 30 years to be successful. We're going in and we're having the conversations on debt service, on working capital, on teams, on time, there's so many different aspects in agriculture that are just being touched by farms. And it's the point of getting the education across so that they can do it on their own operation. Yeah, I still want to have the strategic conversations with our group, but I don't want to be the one in the background doing the bookkeeping or tracking hours or doing that stuff. That's for us to educate the producers on, to get their own systems in place or setting it up. so that then we can do the strategic thought that's actually has the biggest ROI, as Brian said.
That's why little kids all across the world are converting from wanting to be a fire person or, a lawyer or doctor, and now they're going to be financial experts in agriculture. Courtney, I think can I see
Yeah.
that you want to talk?
Yeah, no, I just to sort of build on, I think Roxanne, you were mentioning that, they can't do it all, right? And there's so many different hats again that operations or folks are trying to wear. And we really want to just hammer home that it's not a downfall at all to, understand where your gaps might be, or where your just time is maybe better spent to bring other people around you to help with those decisions, or to help with, a little bit more of the whether it's the financial side or the agronomist side or wherever that is for you. And it's going to be different for everybody, but it's actually a strength to bring other people to the table, and not a weakness at all.
Yeah, and to comment on that, Courtney, like it used to be a massive badge of honor on the farm to do absolutely everything, from the mechanics to the growing the crop to the agronomy, everything. Now we're seeing our best farms, they have a massive team around them where they have their banker relationships, they have their accounting, they have their consulting, they have a massive team around them that each one of them is looking out for them, and it's all goal congruent. They're all looking out for each other to do the best thing for the farm. It is super hard with how big these businesses have gotten to run it all by yourself. So you need a team around you to keep you on track, keep you accountable, and keep you going in the right direction. Like Roxanne talked about, it's if you know what the goals are and everybody's pushing towards those, that is so much more powerful than doing it on your own.
And to be fair, Dan, the majority of that come into the coaching, especially in the farmer coaching, it wasn't based on, I essentially, when we built the program, I thought it'd be based on profitability. It's based on time. Guys do not have time. I mean, you get the stats of how much time you get to spend with your kids before they turn 18. It's about 90 to 95%. I mean, guys are looking to make their life easier so they can actually enjoy some of the things that, not to put anybody down, but that the baby boomers probably didn't as much, because it used to be success was based on how many hours you worked in a week. That's not what it is anymore. So the group on the call here is essentially built around giving you the horsepower so that you can actually step back and enjoy some of your personal life and not work 3,000 to 4,000 hours a year in the field, right?
Well, and to Harry Siemens' point, I want to serve the audience here. And trigger warning, there's it's a little bit of a heavy subject, but why don't we take it on? Just because we are amongst superheroes, and that is our job. If it would be bad if we had the powers and we didn't use them for good. Do we agree? Harry Siemens has been covering farmers for 55 years. Congratulations and thanks for the work that you've done, Harry. And farming with his brother and his father for 10 years. Well, congratulations on that, and growing up on the farm. I saw my father have a total nervous breakdown in 1964. Thank God he recovered totally. Now I keep seeing that the latest stat, 3.5 more suicides than any other segment. 3.5 times more suicides than any other industry, I guess, maybe, Harry. What is the biggest reason?
Do you want the kosher answer? Or you want the hard
I
answer?
want
Dan?
you to be totally authentic and real and grow in the future every time you appear.
The hard answer is that we're afraid to fail, which is the easiest one. I mean, we put so much pressure on the generations coming. I mean, this is a legacy farm. It's been here for X amount of years. You can't fail. You can't. And that, pardon my language, but that's bull. It's a business that's been run for many, many years, and you get the pride of being family, but that's not a pride that gets handed down and you have to wear it. You have to start treating it more like a business and less like a lifestyle. And I know you've heard me say that a million times, but we got to be realistic. The stress that comes with agriculture, yes, part of it's the volatility, but I mean, there's other industries that go through this kind of stuff as well, guys. It's just in agriculture, there's a type of pride with farms, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's the reason we're in this situation. We got to start realizing that don't do it alone. You have groups like the one on the call today, and it's just a business, guys.
Well, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I jump in down a bit. I think, my eyes were open to this a bit, and I think it was 2014 when I spent a year in Australia working in agriculture, and they have an initiative there called Beyond Blue, and it was this conversation about, roughly around 10 suicides a day. But the pressure was primarily, I think it was like 75% of those were amongst males, and inside of farming, I think it was 100% higher than any other industry in Australia. And so I saw the pressure in that, and in a sector where, you know, lots of actually farm advisors and things like that, they don't have insurance. The banking is a little tighter, as we know, it's a pretty drought-stricken area, and there's a lot of pressure on people in this industry that started. So as we come back here to Canada and we're talking about it, I think exactly with what Evan is saying, I find a lot of times as an advisor in these calls where the numbers are easy, we're talking about numbers, we're working with the bankers, we have these meetings. It's like the meeting after the meeting that actually takes the most time, and it's the conversations that we're having about these farms, how they show up as a husband or a wife, or, you know, as a mom or a dad, and just this, like, you know, taking them from awareness to action, because they kind of know the decisions they need to make already. You're just there to help them, at times make them so that they can walk through the front door and be available to others. And anyway, a lot of this piece is the soft skills side, but it's absolutely prevalent, and it's important for us as advisors inside of them to be that circle and to have that hold space for them when it needs to be. So it's not just numbers.
Appreciated. Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in on that? I want to hold space for this conversation until we're done. So anybody else want to comment on that before we move on?
I can jump in a little bit too. I think, like, you know, thinking about being a producer on a farm, it can be kind of isolating too. And, you know, if what you might have your immediate team around you, and, you know, sometimes it's just nature of, whether it's nature of the business or kind of the mindset that Evan was talking about of kind of what we've seen in the past. There's a little bit of isolation in some cases. And, you know, I think it's important to just be open and talk to everybody around you. You know, everyone's facing their own situation. And this is not just an agriculture discussion. It's, you know, anybody's individual person can, you know, go through hard times at any given time, and just be open to talk to others. And there's resources available, and especially in the agriculture space, there's you know, the CCAW, Canadian Center for Agriculture Wellbeing, is a really great resource that offers there's some, I think, like a couple even free therapy sessions and things like that for egg producers across the country. And you know, there's lots of good resources. And I would also say, like, when you're talking finances and you know, in egg, it's more than it is business, but to Evan's point, a lot of people, like, it's their lifestyle. The group on the farm, it feels like there's more at stake a lot of times. And again, like, shifting that mindset that there's you know, we need to think about removing that a little bit, which is hard and, you know, impossible in some cases. But when things are potentially tighter, or, you know, the financial side isn't working out quite as planned, we know there's volatility in agriculture, things happen out of producers' control all the time. It's having a team around you to, number one, talk to, plan together, and find options together and make a plan to go forward. Because there's always a plan, especially early on. There's always something that can be done. It's not like you know, it has to be all doom and gloom, right? There's lots of positives, and there's lots of good options out there.
Yeah, issues compound without good communication. And one of the things that Strategic Coach does teach you is how to take a free day, which I don't know if we've ever heard before in agriculture, and give us permission. We got to get in groups and give us permission to share these kind of things. Roberta Gilbraith is saying Sask Ag Matters just announced this week a crisis line, as well as no cost counseling for farmers in Saskatchewan. This is huge. Saskatchewan government step up to help make this happen, and do more and ag has been really active, and it's a conversation maybe we never had before. We didn't even think too much about it before, and I think we're making strides. Hey,
yeah, and just having the conversations has come a long way than if you say look back even a decade ago, right? Just, and then I know a lot of us in the room here are involved in peer groups in some ways, and those, I think, have been pretty powerful for members that are in those peer groups, finding other farmers that can relate and just talking about it, right? And I mean, mental health also goes into the side of addiction and all those sorts of things too, and being able to talk openly about that, and having, again, going back to Courtney's point, people you can call and talk through those things if you're kind of struggling through that as well. And yeah, like you mentioned, Dan, like Roberta was saying, there's a ton of great resources that just continue to get better and better as there's more movement in the industry in that direction and having the conversations. So I think that's where it starts.
The other side of it, Dan, is we treat, I mean, agriculture, we treat a lot of it like it's uncontrollable, right? Like whether it's weather, whether it's policy, you know, whether it's Trump, whatever he's about to do next. But in the end, the reason this group is on this call and the reason this group was essentially created over the last decade was that I don't believe in uncontrollable risks. I believe whatever you do internally at your farm, you have the control. And that's whether that's cutting costs, whether that's insurance, whether that's growing better crops. There is a million different faucets and a million different solutions. But going back to the communication piece, you have to be able to have those conversations or else it does feel uncontrollable, right? You can't stop the next weather event, but you can prepare the farm for it so that stressor isn't even there to begin with.
Well, it wasn't on my bingo card to be having this conversation, but I'm glad that we can, and that's the power of the live room. And obviously, it's a question, Harry, that you asked on behalf of a lot of people because this, you know, the statistics show that it's a significant outlier for risk is losing good people, well-meaning people, hardworking people to that. And I'm sure it's all touched our lives. And hopefully, if your father was, you know, having those kind of issues in today's day and age, it would be maybe a better story. And who wants to go through the storm alone? Who wants to go through the storm alone? I'd much rather go through with a team of handsome superheroes like we have on the call today. So that was awesome. That's an awesome segment. Anybody else have anything on that? Well, I've got some other threads here. I want to keep going with the audience, but anybody want to put a footnote on that, or are we good? Dino says, with this many talented young brains on the panel, there's no need to hear from me. And I would argue that, you know, Dean, there is an issue, and the issue is succession, and the issue is intellectual succession, and really getting the knowledge from elders down to others. And that's why I want to create an AI bot of you, Dean. If it's the last thing I do, we're going to get your brain in a jar. But the transfer of intellectual capital, is that, how do you guys see that going? And who's been mentoring you? Who are you mentoring? How does this happen through osmosis? What is the plan to keep breeding smart people in the world that can help each other succeed? That's a big one, but
I'll speak quick. I've been seeing more and more in client meetings, and I think there's a lot of power in bringing in the younger generation. I just sat in on a meeting earlier this week, and all the kids were in the meeting as well. And I thought that was really cool. And I would hope to see more of that, I guess, just as far as, and it kind of touches on what we talked on earlier in the conversation of the financial acumen and preparing the next generation. Like I would be of the opinion, I don't really think it's ever too early to start. Like, you'll know when it's the right time, I guess, in your operation, but it certainly can't hurt to be involving them in those conversations and kind of showing them the way earlier. So I thought that was really cool. And I hope to see more of that.
well, and when it comes to succession planning, I'm sure it's never too late, and you should always be starting earlier. And I was really happy to hear that our family farm with professional services like yours came to me one day and said it's done. So you can't even argue it. And I was like, okay. So that was actually nice. It was a relief. Go ahead.
One thing I was just going to touch on too is we're talking about bringing everybody together in today's call. I think with the succession planning, I think it's important to have everybody's voices heard in separate rooms as well, because I think there is a little bit of a stigmatism of, you know, the son is coming up or the daughter's coming up and their parents' expectations of what they want to the farm, but that might not actually align with what they're thinking. So I think to separate those rooms and have a conversation with mom, have a conversation with dad, have a conversation with everybody to make sure that all their goals are the same, but it's different when you get them in a room alone and can actually speak freely, and you know their dad or mom isn't listening to what they're having to say, or maybe it's
they
not
did
the
that with
exact
me, and you know what I said I wish it was more, but I'll take whatever I can get. Like, come on here.
Yeah, it's
Well, the big one, Dan, is we also know the demographics of farms, right? The average age of a farmer is not going down, it's going up. And I mean, by the next decade, we're going to see most of the farm transfers happen that are going to happen. The big one that nobody talks about is the thought leadership we're about to lose. So if you're not bringing the next generation up with you and you're not including them in meetings, they're going to get left with a complex organization that they might not even want. And that's not good for agriculture, to be fair. We need that next generation to come back to the family farm. And if they think it's too much of a monster to take over, that's going to hurt us all. The second piece is we just got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Succession conversations, they are not easy. They are hard. There's feeling, there's emotion. And I would love to say treat it like a business and don't do it. But guess what? It's going to happen. The big one is you got to realize there's two sides to everyone. It's a negotiation. And I think that's the part that's missed with a lot of succession planning is it's just, this is the way it's got to go. And there's a script. There is no script to succession. Every farm's different. Every next generation wants something different. The past generation has different ideals, much like Travis said. It's got to be a negotiation in a room, in a boardroom. I don't care what it is with mediators to get the right plan in place so that the farm, like the legacy is the family, not the farm. Let's be fair.
Well, and this happened by default. Nobody knew when you're putting seed in the ground, 25, 30 years ago, it was $300 an acre. It was going to turn into what it would turn into. Like Evan, the numbers that you're dealing with on our family farm.
Yep.
Harvey worked at the mine because he couldn't afford to farm. And now it's like, well, there's tens of millions of dollars, like the amount of wealth on farms. It is something to manage. And there's feelings involved with those kinds of numbers. So
Dan, to your point there,
yeah,
it's become that much more important with the operational side. And I've talked about this with the peer groups and a couple of our clients where, Harvey used to work at the mine because he used to go work at the mine and he would be able to fund some of the farm, maybe buy a quarter of land or, pay for inputs if things did go sideways. Those numbers aren't jiving anymore. You can't go work the rigs or the mine and make enough money to pay for a quarter of land now or pay for your inputs. The numbers have just gotten so astronomically large that you have to be good at operating and you have to be in tune with the farm because it's not that easy to go work an offside job or a off-farm job and make things work if the farm doesn't do well.
Courtney, are you telling people they got to work a little bit more overtime just to make covenants there?
We're not telling that, no. Okay. What's the old saying? Work smarter, not harder.
Amen. Amen, sister. I love it. Okay. We are getting blown up in the chat here. I don't know if I really mentioned it or clarified enough, but we were talking about going for an hour and a half because of the quality of folks on this call here. Everybody's free to use their time however they want, but you're free to continue to join us in this most productive conversation, I would argue. Now, I've got two folks with hands up, John Gibson and Drew Sharp. I will call on you and I will bring you on. I just want to make sure that you weren't playing with buttons and hit the eject button there inadvertently. Oh, okay, one of them's gone. John, if you really want to come on, I'll bring you on. No problem. I just want to give you a fair warning. I'll come back to you if you still have your hand up. So Carl Strobel was making some interesting points here. Our agronomist part of the dream team? You addressed that, Justin. In a dream team scenario, the agronomist doesn't just sell you inputs. They help you optimize your return on investment. But he's also asking, what about a climate officer? And I'm wondering, who in the Avengers is not here and is going to come into like the sequel and kick some butt? Like who's not at the table right now? I mean, we got a pretty good team here. I'm not too worried about the end of the world, but do we need a climate officer? We've already got agronomists at M&P integrated. No problem. Check mark. Are you guys going to get some climate officers just to be cooler than you already are? That's the next step.
We're a powerhouse, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Roxanne, you're team leader. You need a climate officer on your team here. What we're alluding to is we had a thumbnail of everybody dressed up as superheroes, which I may show at the very end if you stay. Is that, Courtney, are we good to show it? Because Roxanne, you were front and saying oh my God, you were
AI knows.
Well, some of you can fly. I'm not sure. We'll find out who, but who are we missing, Roxanne, on the dream team?
I know we were talking to it, I think, just before we got on the call, but even like on Evan's team there, like the people like Taylor. More in the walking around talking into their phones, right? Like,
oh Lordy.
For example, I'm learning AI and all things digital and trying to find more ways to do that. But I think more experts in that field is the way of the future for sure of how to bring that back to the farm and
AI specialist.
There's probably a cooler, more sexy way of saying that. But...
No, we can figure that out. That's not a problem. I'm a marketer.
She's like a CTO person even, and I know Evan, you guys are doing some work with that, but just the whole data integration to AI, all that kind of Internet of Things stuff. I think that's
AI is coming.
The next key. Yeah.
Well, the big one, Dan, is it makes everybody on this call's life easier. And what I mean by that is the stuff that Taylor's doing on farms. It's getting the data up to date. It's getting the bookkeeping so it's done by taking pictures, not having to do manual entry. It's tying it across to whether it's Harvest Profit or Ag Empower to JD Ops to all those things. And then all of a sudden, Brian or myself or MNP can just jump on their QuickBooks or Ag Expert or Harvest Profit, and we've got up to date information from the grain carts. I mean, that's what's going to make our job easier. Now, can AI replace us? No, I feel pretty calm that thought leadership isn't going anywhere anytime soon. But can it replace all the data entry and stuff that we require to do the jobs we do? 100%. And that's where when we brought Taylor on, it was that mentality of I want my job to be easier. I want to focus with the clients on the big ticket items. I don't want to have to make sure the bookkeeping is correct or we have up to date yields. And so it's about building. So the tech guy, 100%, he's probably ahead of me in the list of people that should be on this call, to be fair, because I think that's the next decade. That's where the industry is getting pulled, and it's going to go there. So for me, CTO, agronomist, you tell me what your operation's doing that's kind of cool, and I'll tell you who should be on this advisory board, to be fair.
And to Evan's point there, sorry, Courtney,
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry, to Evan's point there, just what we find, if you can, you have data, then we have information, and then it's this team that takes that information and creates insight, right? And we always talk about this around Growlytics. It's insights, solutions to problems you don't even know you have yet. There's all these blind spots everyone's flying around, but the timeliness of this data needs to increase tenfold quick because 10 years ago when everyone started, and it's still prevalent on probably your 80% farms that you talked about, Evan, was you see a set of financial statements and the guy's done seeding already and he's out of money, and it's just the timeliness is so far off. So we just got to speed that cycle up a lot.
Well, and if you have folks like we have on the call here today in your corner, wouldn't you want AI multiplying their efforts and not spending time on tedious tasks, like the amount of information you can put into it and get feedback? And if you brilliant folks are using AI as a thinking partner to multiply your intellectual prowess, boom, bada boom. I love it. Courtney, did you have a comment there?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention some of the same stuff that Brian just spoke about with, access to timely information. And, there's still a lot of operations out there that are, they don't know if last year was profitable until the accountant has gone through the statements and received them, 4, 5, 6 months after their year end. And they're already well into planning and production of their next season already. And, there's lots of benefits, even from an access to capital standpoint, coming from the bank side, is accurate, timely information to be able to make decisions based off of today and not in the past is very powerful.
And that's the big distinction. I mean, Brian, you can probably back me up on this. Our year starts essentially October 31st because the past year's done, the grain's in the bin. We're already looking forward. And that's the managerial accounting side of the business, where the accountants are more focused on the financial side. And sorry, Roxanne, I'm not nailing you on this, but their job is to essentially look back, do the tax planning, make sure that you're not in a position that's bad, that side of it. And then you got Travis, who's part of the FMC group, that's then looking forward, right? So our job is not to continue that year until you get the financial statements. Our job is, we know what's in the bin, what's next year's plan. I mean, I got farms that are doing crop plans 2 years out so that they know rotations and they know fertilizer right now. We all know what the price is. What's the plan 6 months from now, or interest rate risk? What's the plan 2 years from now when you got 3 loans that are coming due? What's the renewal going to be? That's probably the hardest part of the job for most of the people on this call, is we're looking out 2 or 3 years. I don't leave work and say, oh, I got this done today, because I haven't got nothing done. I'm looking 3 years out. I'll let you know what I got done 3 years from now. That's the part that's the most difficult, is I don't get to play in the normal right now. I'm still playing 3, 5, 10 years out.
Yeah.
John, you're live. Welcome to Growing the Future show live. You had your hand up for a while. Did you have a comment? You can take yourself off mute. I will bring anybody who puts their hand up and wants to make a comment up first.
I just wondered what your thoughts were on kind of the third generation curse. It seems like small businesses, small to mid-sized businesses in agriculture in multiple sects seem to get to the third generation and then something goes sideways.
Great question. Thank you, John. Who wants to tackle that with vigor? He was the superhero.
I seem to be jumping first, so I'll
You
jump
do
first.
it. You do it. You're doing great, man.
John, I think the biggest there's a couple, don't get me wrong. And number one, I think is the thought leadership passing on. A majority of the next generation never lived through the 80s, let's be fair. So not saying we're going back there because I truly don't believe we are, but you still need to have those conversations. You had to know what the risks are. Because if I came into ag in the last 15, 20 years, I've seen good times. I've seen land prices explode. I've seen new equipment that I never thought was even going to be around. I've seen, don't take this the wrong way, farms. I've seen cabins and boats and everything else on the personal side. Agriculture looks really sexy today, to be fair. And we got to be aware that it's not always going to be this way. So I think part of it is that third generation curse is we need to pull it back so that they know how this was built and how and the reason it's built. I mean, I think the thing was the first generation builds it, the second generation grows it, the third generation kills it. Isn't that that's the story, right? We need to get that third generation involved enough with the first two that they see how it was built and why it was built. The other one is education. I mean, I can go back to the universities. How many of us could have taken agriculture and got the degrees that we have now? I talk the way I talk because I went to commerce, not into ag. The business side is what I focus on, and that's part of I think what's missing is the numbers. Dan, you said it. The numbers are astronomical today, bigger than I ever thought. I mean, most house mortgages would be my smallest loan on some of the farms I work with. So it's that side of it that I think the next generation really has to bite into because that's where the risks.
And to Evan's point there, just and to John's point, to your question, like we're talking about, for me, as sad as this sounds, it's all widgets to me. We get farming is emotional, it's a hobby. So we have to talk about what we're talking about. Are we preserving the farm or are we preserving wealth and capital for that third generation? Because you might have to say no to farming in order to do the latter.
Oh,
and I think that's where we get so caught up.
Are we what? Say no to farming? Is that?
This is
I'm
like,
not a realtor, for the record. I'm not a realtor.
No. This is where we go. That was going to be.
Are we talking about preserving farming, which is an emotional hobby, or are we talking about preserving capital and wealth for future generations?
I like that he went here, guys. To be fair,
like that?
Two distinct and separate things, right?
Yeah. Because succession is one of the hardest things for ag, because I got producers that'll come to me and say, hey, I want to leave this to the next generation. And there's not enough equity. There's not enough capital. There's not enough of a farm hold for 2 generations to actually live off of it. We need to be very clear. If the goal is to pass the farm down, yes, there's a certain scale, there's a certain size, there's a certain equity we have to build it to. That's got to be decided a decade ago, not today. And if it comes down to the hard conversations that we have to have with clients, those conversations might be that this farm is not sustainable with multiple generations. We need to have a different conversation.
Or your son's not the CEO.
Yes,
your son can't be the CEO. He can be a shareholder.
Treating the reality of what it is. Cousin consortiums, as they say, kind of moving into these next generations. Multiple non-farming kids, farming kids. Like, you open up Pandora's box here, right? But
now it's getting fun.
Business and treating it like a business, and to Brian's point, kind of taking out that emotional side of it when it comes to
drive a tractor, but you can't run the farm.
Good job.
What do you think about that, John? Does that resonate, or what's your experience, John? It's lots to consider. John's probably living it.
Oh, John, you're muted, I think.
John, you're still on mute.
I just see, a lot of things going on in the world. When you get the third generation, you also get a factorial of relationships. You think of mom and dad, and then the first generation down, and then there might be 2 more families involved, but that's not 3 relationships. That's a relationship between mom and dad and the quote unquote children and the spouses. Everybody has a relationship, and then you get the third generation below that, and the number of relationships explodes. So that sometimes it's just a breakdown of communication and expectations, I think.
Man, I did a big favor leaving in '93. That's all I can say. You couldn't have a big enough farm, Evan, for you couldn't have a 120,000 acre farm for 3 Aberharts, I don't think.
You do know they cut you out of the wills last conversation I had, right?
Hey, we're going to follow up. We're going to circle back on that later, because
next time we need a lawyer on this call too.
Heard from our sponsor. We got to get
the only thing I care about is Maricopa. Give me Maricopa and I'll go away quietly forever.
I think to John's point there, like I think if you have a proper succession plan in place and everybody's goals are aligned and everybody knows what's going on, that third generation can succeed. And I think you're going to see more success out of that. I don't know if there's stats out there for, you know, if you had a succession plan and you work with somebody to do that, but I would assume that it's quite a bit higher of a success rate rather than, hey, you're up next, take it over when they're maybe not prepared for it or however that looks.
Well, the group has to define what success is in that, and that's why if you go through the steps of a proper succession plan, dad's definition of success might be different than his daughter's, and different from mom's, and different from whoever. So
yeah.
And you said
separate rooms. You said to talk to people.
Yeah.
Is there a bright light in that room? Like, are they sweating? Is it under the duress that these people are making these decisions?
Well, I'm interested.
Go ahead.
This might be, I mean, Evan, you know, you're going to talk about this a bit, but it's like, I'm interested in that third generation, how many times they're actually set up for failure by the second generation.
Oh, yeah.
When it's like the succession planning payment is way too high for that parents leaving, and they basically burden this third generation with no ability to succeed. I mean, you've said it, you see that equity and everything's there, but sometimes that payment and the guilt on it, they can't succeed.
Is that why when margins got tightened up that my inheritance went down? Is that what you're saying, Evan? You had to cut me out because of freaking fertilizer this year?
You want their true
advisors were charging too much here.
Gotcha. Got you.
Simpkins isn't wrong though. Like, and Justin, you said it correctly, is the farm cannot be bought every generation. And if that's the family plan, that is a plan to fail. The theory should be that between farmland appreciation, between the growth in the farm, and hopefully the return on investment that Brian talked about that the farm's making, that this is a family legacy. I mean, I've started working with farms in the last few years about creating those family offices, which is, I don't want the farm to have to ever be sold. I don't want it to get split between non-farming siblings. I don't want this quarter to go to Joe, who's never been on the farm. I want everybody to be fair and equal. I do agree in that. But I agree that the legacy is the family. The Rockefellers didn't get to where they were because they split their wealth every generation. They got there because everybody stayed together. And that's where I think we're missing in agriculture is we always feel like we got to split everything and we have to sell it off and we have to. Fair and equal means that this one has a quarter. No. Fair and equal means that everybody has a distribution of wealth equal on the family office. And until we get that through agriculture, we're going to continue to have succession at 12% because it's not going to change. And what has to change is that the family office, if you truly want the farm to stay together, it has to be contained in the family and it has to be carried on generations. And do you want one generation to get a big check, or do you want this to be here for 5 generations so they all get dividends, first house deposit, whatever it might be, however you want to distribute the wealth? But I think the big one is as Justin said, we try to sell it every 40 years. That doesn't work at today's land prices.
Yeah. Everything can go to pot if there's not collaboration there and understanding that the farm, above all else, has to survive, even if it's just an emotional hobby.
Yeah. Question for the group, I guess. Like,
I'm not going to let you live that down. Go ahead, Roxanne.
With some of these larger, well, not even larger, just some of these farms going forward into future generations, maybe there is kids that want to be involved, but like to Brian's point, they are not a CEO. Is our industry prepared, or are we moving in a direction where we're going to be seeing more and more CEOs, CFOs, like full-time on the farm, running the business, and then to your point, having the dividends paid out to, the children, that sort of thing? Like where are we at with that?
I would have said a decade ago, not going to happen, but I've had farms come into Farmer Coach the last few years, and one of them's actually one of Brian's farms. Is they're trying to bring in a CEO to run the farm because that's the succession plan. And don't get me wrong, you got to be very comfortable that you might be the primary shareholder, but maybe you're better at agronomy, so you might not be the CEO, and that's where the biggest conflict comes. Is, are you prepared not to be at the top of the triangle? And if you're comfortable with that because you know that there's somebody that's got a better unique ability than you, awesome. And that will be a success. I mean, Roxanne, you know our farm obviously well enough. There's 3 CPAs on my staff. And yeah, we have the consulting, but right now 2 of the CPAs work on the farm, not in Maverick. So technically the CFO side, that's why I was hired. Maverick didn't exist when I joined Christian. I went there to be CFO. So we're starting to see that with the scale, the ability to bring in specialized work. And I hate to say it, but that's why scale still is required. Is you need the scale to bring in people, and people are your biggest investment.
Well, and this isn't new either. Ag's always this late bloomer, right? Like this isn't new in any other sector. But so we just have to copy what works. It's there. The blueprint's there in other sectors.
None of the Waltons work at Walmart. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
No.
But this is important too.
But that's how you preserve it for the third generation, right? We have to define what we're preserving.
Yeah.
Are we preserving someone's ego, or are we preserving capital?
We want to preserve the ability to drive large, shiny new tractors. Let's be real.
Do not go there today, Dan, please.
Yeah.
No word from our sponsor.
Who wants to talk about iron?
Hey, one little thing. I think one of the advisors that we just haven't talked about, and as I see a lot of these large farms grow, a big piece that comes back from our clients often is just this conversation about HR. And just as we scale and we're bringing in foreign workers and full-time, and we're trying to figure out benefits, everything, I don't want to take a guess. I don't have the stat, like, Evan does a really good job of having a lot of these stats, but it's like, how many farms out there are at risk because their contracts are so improperly written? And you have to remember that the main purpose of human resources is to protect the corporation. And if we're not structured properly, if we don't onboard employees properly, there's so many issues that can come up. And I just think that I think it's important that farms they have to have that in place. It's too much
HR manager then? We need an HR manager too to the dream team?
You need some, I think there's an advisor role there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I would agree.
The new
how many
farmers
farms
from South Africa, hey, Evan?
So how many farms have an employee handbook? Let's be fair. And some would say, well, that's ridiculous. We're not big enough for that. Yeah, but it's got the policies. They got to sign it every year. You now have the legal side of that. How many have a safety guideline? None. So, I mean, when we go down this list, HR should be a massive concern on any farm that's got 30, I don't care how many employees, but it's the low hanging fruit, right? The other one is when you start on a farm, what do you start doing? Well, I'm a rock picker. 20 years from now, am I still going to be a rock picker? No. And that's the discussion that never happens. So we wonder why kids don't want to come back to ag. Well, because there's no career. It's a job. And Roxanne, when you started at MNP, what was your starting wage? Let's be fair. I know what mine was. It was well under 30 grand.
What was it?
And I'm a lot older than you.
Hot seat.
It was we'll just, what's the word? Inflation adjust for what Evan just said.
Wow. That sounds like an accounting term.
So you wouldn't have stayed there if you didn't know what the career was. And I mean, now obviously you're a partner, you've gone through the years. We don't have that on farms. And then you wonder why we have trouble with HR. Well, I'm not coming back for a job. I'm coming back for a career.
Well, Courtney knows we got the Aberhart Farms handbook changed for driving with video on and Zoom. So there's a story there you can ask her later.
We got to have policies for everything. But no, I think this conversation keeps coming back to, agriculture it's a very important industry. Obviously, everyone who's involved in the industry, whether you grew up to it, you came to it, whatever the story is. I think, Brian, you were the one who said this, the industry's been a bit of a late bloomer in a lot of different ways. And if you take a step back from, the emotion side or how it's being, how you got to the point you are now, and you look at it as a business and what all the other industries are doing for all the various different faucets, then there's a lot we can learn from other industries to bring into agriculture, to continue success, to make it, tenfold successful into the future.
Get over your emotional hobby. That's the message. I'm just kidding. We got lots of comments here, folks. So
that is Dan at aberhartfarm.com. If you would like to send that.
We just have to define what it is. Just you get to drive the bus. Like that's our metaphor around Growalytics. We're riding shotgun with these guys. They're still driving. So you got to tell me where you want to go, and then I can watch out for things. But
and
let's just define things properly.
We also don't want it to ever, we don't want to come across in this kind of group here that, egg shouldn't be viewed as agriculture, because it is still very unique. And there's a lot of different, there's just, it can't be like every other industry. Can we learn from some of the others in some cases? And especially as we scale and continue to build these teams around farms? Absolutely. But it is still unique, and there's a reason for it, the legacy and the passion and everything else as well.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I feel seen and heard, Courtney. We all want to feel seen and heard. And I think agriculture is very different. And that's why this community is special. Dean York is saying, what I've found is that it's not a cookie cutter approach at all. Each operation has unique needs. There could be common areas to address, but the unique to farm approach with the correct people is essential. I mean, there must be wild variability on these data sets across farms, hey?
Crazy when we're trying to enter guys into the benchmark, just financial structure. I mean, as a whole, our industry, I don't think is doing any of these farms a favor by all of our financial statements are all structured differently, and there's hardly any comparability between it. It becomes difficult for them to talk apples to apples to their neighbors, to their peers, and actually understand, make sure that they're talking about the same thing. Talk a lot of numbers to a lot of buddies, but by the time you get to the bottom line, it's, you're questioning all the time if you're actually comparing the right things, because everybody says stuff differently and everybody's comparing the numbers differently. So
and to be fair, Travis, this is your call out to Dean, since I'm hoping he's still listening. So Dean, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something nice for you here.
Dean's lurking.
When he got the MNP statements changed to LPM and LBF, that was probably the biggest change in agriculture that, from a business perspective, that I've seen. And what I mean by that is now known across Canada and even into the US now. LPM is an actual terminology. Yeah. I sat on a board that did some standards work in Canada. That is one of the benchmarks that we want farms to calculate, whether they're with MNP or not. Yeah, we need to understand those. So you're 100% correct. Is the functionality between different financial statements different? We need to be able to come up with metrics that allow this group to find the insights and, as Brian said, come up with the possibilities before they actually become opportunities, right?
Right.
Jordan Schmidt says, our farm met with Evan a year ago to this day to help us guide our farm in the direction that was needed. He and his team has taken our farm from working off assumptions to making decisions on actual facts, and it's just the beginning. The biggest thing for me working with them and working on actual facts, that's an interesting, actual facts, unlike fake facts, is the amount of mental stress it has taken off my mind. Can't thank him and his team enough for what they do. Wow. Somebody's getting their superhero due today.
I'll reach out and say thank you, Jordan. He did. He came to us a while ago, and he was a strong farmer. He came through Farmer Coach, and then he wanted to do a little consulting, and that's all it was they're a good farm. He just needed to know the numbers to a point where he could sleep at night. And I think that's what everybody on the call is trying to do, is producers have enough stress. Our job is just to make it so that they essentially have the scorecard in front of them. They know what the worst case scenario is, and it doesn't bother them.
Good for you. Well, that's a good example of what we're talking about today. Carl Strobel is saying, what is the secret source to interchange information? Meetings were suggested, but are there other options? Are you guys on WhatsApp or Discord or TikTok, or talk to me?
I think a big part of one of the things that the peer group's doing is they're chatting in WhatsApp all the time. They're always communicating to each other. When are guys buying fuel? When are guys buying fertilizer? Making sure everybody's in the know. And I think that's super powerful when you can get your peers all together like that.
Yeah, Todd Rowan and Dave Norris on our other event this week were saying that they have a really extensive Discord group, and so the information gets pushed. And there's individual texting, but anybody else have any ways that you're communicating?
We're full Google interface. So technically Google Meets, Google Chats, Google Videos, yeah. Everything's tied through, even to the fact that Google Drive, where I can share a spreadsheet with Terry, for example, and Terry can update it in real time and it pulls into my system. Like, that's the communication side. It's not just meetings, it's being able to, the tech, for example, like I said, I can jump into Harvest Profit on a farm and know their numbers today. And now I'm making, real-time changes to the budgets. And that's going back to Travis. That's the biggest thing, is if you have those communication channels where it's not necessarily even a text, it's a change of a document, it's a change of a number. It's that real time that's what drives agriculture. To be fair, we have so much information, we just don't use it enough.
Yeah, or share it properly, or it's building that key infrastructure that Evan talks about. So
the exciting part is if you're on Google too, a guy like Taylor Phillips can ligament all that together over the skeleton with AI, right? Like it's that's getting spooky. So Stuart McMahon is saying, on a medium-sized multi-generational family farm, what might be the beginning baby steps of assembling an advisory team? Great question. Bringing in outsiders for the first time is a little bit uncomfortable when all the responsibilities have been our own. That's a good one. Yeah.
I can maybe jump in to start this one. I think like there's opportunity for every farm. It doesn't matter size, large, small, medium, everything in between, to have a team of people around you. And if you think about where you are today, every single operation has some relationship with a lender and some relationship with an accountant at probably table stakes. And so those are, some of the two current relationships that you have that you can reach out to and leverage and say, who else should I be talking to? How can we build a team around that person if you have a good relationship with them? It's a really good place to start. And again, this whole industry is fairly small and well connected, and we all know who might be a good fit for somebody for your specific farm, for your size, for your circumstance, for where your goals are and where you want to get to. And it's making those introductions and creating that ecosystem. And so again, starting with who you currently know and reaching out, and I think just building around that.
Well, how much does the advisory board get compensated at Eberhard Farms? I know Eberhard Egg, I mean, we had incredible, like we're talking Jeff Carlson, we're talking lots of amazing people. And they gave of their time because we had the courage to ask them. Terry started that culture. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be, like a professional consulting relationship either. You can go to people that are successful. I find the most successful people inversely are the most willing to help. They want to share their knowledge. They're in that position in life where they want to give back. It's crazy. And you ask a smart, capable person who's gone before you and been super successful, it is wild how much help they'll offer. Is that fair, Evan?
Yeah, and I would say the biggest benefit of the advisory board is that it's not all agriculture people. Like we try to, like I think it was said before, is we have this little bubble and we assume everybody's got to be within the bubble. I'm sorry, but and maybe this is a disagreement with some of the stuff we said earlier. Agriculture to me is not different. It's still a business. We do the same thing year over year. We put a crop in, we spray it, we harvest it, we take it off, we truck it, we sell it. This is no different than a manufacturing company. So why wouldn't I have a strong CEO from the next rural town that runs a great business sit in on my advisory board? And that's what Terry did, to be fair. His group is not a whole bunch of farmers. In fact, other than Jeff and maybe a couple others, it's business people that have built some really strong businesses. That's what he needed. I mean, the farm is doing well. I don't need more farmers to tell me how to farm. I need business people to tell me the things that I'm not seeing because I'm stuck in the bubble.
Yeah, to your point, Travis, about bringing the trucker in with the crazy metrics. Kevin Hirsch is saying, over the years, there's been a number of large diversified operations that have had to make difficult restructuring decisions. Some have gone out of business. Did they lack professional advice, or did they become too aggressive despite good advice? It's story time, folks.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that.
Well, it's one thing to have a whole group of people around the table. It depends. Are you going to listen to any of them or not, or what comes out of that discussion? And again, we kind of come back to ego and things. And I'm not here to judge anybody or people, but ego is the enemy a lot of the time. So
fair.
And if you have, you don't want yes men around you. So if you've got a bunch of people,
advisors who are going to tell you the truth, right? Or
tell you stuff you don't want to hear.
Is Roxanne going to burst your bubble?
That's her job.
Believe it or not, yes, I will do it. And like it kind of going back to the last question too, is like, and to Courtney's point, the baby step side of it is like, frankly, I know a lot about my clients. Like accountants just generally, you do, right? Because you're in such personal information, I guess, when you're doing what you're doing. So that's a good starting point to just, and it doesn't matter what size of farm I deal with. I have from like 1,000 acres to much larger. I'd be meeting with those people at least twice a year. So I get like on the baby step side of things, like you want to build the trust because it is difficult to bring in an outsider right off the get-go. And also if you've got multiple family members around the table, you want to make sure everyone's on board. But I do think there's a lot of power in bringing in somebody from the outside to maybe start poking holes in what you're already doing. And again, then to this current question, just, having difficult conversations, but actually taking the advice and doing something with it.
And you got to test them if they're coachable. Hey, Roxanne, you got to look them in the eye and say, are you coachable?
I was going to say, if all I'm going to be doing is filing your tax returns, like we're probably not the best fit for each other, frankly.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. Okay, then.
And the big thing for Kevin's question was he focused on the scale diversified. I have farms that are 1,000. I have farms that are 50,000. It has there's no
Yeah.
bearing on size. The bearing is on the financial acumen of the farm, what position they're in, what their equity position is, what their debt service, what their working capital. And farms that have gotten trouble, yeah, it could have been too progressive, too quick. But in the end, over the last decade, if I bought a whole bunch of land 10 years ago and today things got tight, am I in a worse position or a better position? And I think that's got to be the realistic conversation is it's ROI, as Brian said earlier. We've treated land like it's a emotional attachment with farms. You never sell land, you never move land. Land is just a tool. And the home quarter, no, the home quarter is tied to the family, and I get the emotional attachment. The rest of the land, it's an asset for you to make money off of, whether that's farm returns, whether that's appreciation. So we just got to be very clear that the scale is not necessarily what's caused some of these farms to go the wrong direction. It was just not keeping on top of the numbers and not watching the risk management side. And that comes with a small farm, with a big farm. It comes with them all. I've done restructures on very small operations and very large operations. It's the same math. It's the same ratios. The ratios don't change just because it's scaled. The ratios are identical, to be fair.
Good.
And I think it's about
insight.
setting the vision and getting to where you want to go. Like a business is a vehicle to take you from point A to point B. So if you want to go from here to here, that's fine. But we got to calculate how long that's going to take, and if we have any hiccups or detours, and it's going to add time. So you can't get there overnight if you just want to double your farm tomorrow, but it is possible. But we just got to define what we're shooting at.
What if I just want to have an exciting hobby? Is that a different podcast?
Brian and I have this conversation often.
I thought this was a hobby.
Oh, that is Brian.mac at
Tanner, were you trying to jump in there?
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
Turn your vocation into your vacation. Yeah. Anyways.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we talk. It used to always be about just growing acres, right? Like Brian and I talk about this lots. The goal is always just every year, just let's see how many acres I can grow by, and that's changed. I think Brian said yesterday when we were talking, it's growing wealth, not acres, right? So I think that's where the focus needs to change. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Growing
for the sake of growing is not the be all and end all. Like there has to be a vision, a strategic plan. How are we going to get there? How are we going to set ourselves up for success and manage the bumps along the way? And I think it was Evan who mentioned before that there's lots of operations who know exactly what the worst case scenario is going to be because they've built the right insurance programs and things around them. And those are all really key tools that help in that strategic growth and that plan to feel comfortable and confident in taking those steps forward. And I know that like one of the lots of farms, sometimes you face a couple poor years in a row or multiple in some areas. And I don't want to say it's luck of the draw and sometimes there's things that are out of your control. I know that was kind of contrary to Evan's point that there are some things that you should be able to control it all, but
you guys are disagreeing.
But from a lending perspective, there's options, and if things do get a little tighter, I know some people are against sometimes like re-amortizing some debt or consolidating or whatever that looks like, but it's not kicking the can down the road. It's actually trying to give the operations some breathing room to be able to move forward. And in the good times, you can always pay down debt. So that's
well, since you wanted to get so controversial on the show and disagree with Evan, this feeds into Dave Sullivan's trigger warning here. You want to talk to that? You want to retort?
No, I don't disagree. It's just the theory of it is we looked at restructure and Courtney, you and I have done a whole bunch. Restructure is not a dirty word anymore, guys. Restructure. I don't have a farm probably that's come into Maverick in the last 5 years that hasn't had a restructure, but it hasn't been to save the farm. It's been to set the farm up for that next opportunity, whether that's acres, whether that's diversification, whatever it might be. The term restructure is no longer a swear word, guys. It's actually a tool. And we got to be very clear that the tool needs to be done correctly. But at the same time, it's allowed farms to buy land and progress faster than their neighbors for the last decade.
David Sullivan is saying, what's this group do when this group doesn't agree? When the advice isn't perfectly aligned? Farmers paying in one way or another for everybody's opinion, but there's no way this group is always on the same page. Fight it out.
Well, that's when the CEO's just got to make a call where whoever's in control of the farm will make a decision, and I compare a boardroom to kind of like a hockey locker room, right? You kind of have the fight in the room, you hash it out, but you come out as a cohesive unit. And maybe it's me separating my idea from my own ego, right? And Evan rips it apart, but at
I
least
like
it's
that.
in the safe confines of the boardroom and not a podcast or something.
Well, somebody said
Well,
earlier that having a bunch of yes men isn't productive. I think it was you, Rob.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Evan.
Well, and you said it correctly, Brian, is everybody's got to be in the room and we got to share information. Like that's, I don't know where Sully's going with this. Thanks, Dave, for throwing this in, but the main aspect is everybody on this call has a different skill set. Everybody on this call has different information. If we all share, the client comes out first. If we don't share and we go against each other in different boardrooms and different conversations, you're right. The client's paying 3 different advisors for 3 different opinions with 3 different sets of information. That doesn't work for anybody.
Right.
So I think the big one is your team that you've put together as CEO. You have to treat them all the same and put them in the same room. And yeah, there'll be disagreements, but in the end, you're going to get the best answer. Where if you split them up and make them compete against one another, you're going to get 3 different answers, and who knows which one was right and which one was best.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I mean, the whole point is that like it's an advisory team. We're here to all work towards the same goals. We're not here to tell anybody how to run their business. We're here to provide thoughts and opinions and work together to come to a best outcome. But at the end of the day, as been mentioned, it's the operator who's making that final call, and we're all alongside there with them.
Take the money and run. Take the money and run, folks. That's my advice. Just kidding. Harry Siemens, thanks so much, Dan, for taking this up with this group. It makes the group even more special. Keep up the great work. Barry Rutledge is saying, coming from the sub 80% group, it's very hard to assemble the dream team. We have gone through a very profitable time and credit was way too easy. Now groups like you need to press what the 5 to 10 year realities may be. In the 80s, the hard discussions was with Fluid Farms and how much equity they were willing to lose. It's not always growing, but deciding is the road that I want to be on. This is very age dependent.
I think that comes back to that other conversation that we were having earlier is good advice isn't always easy, right? Like you have to have those tough conversations. And if they're willing to tell you, the farm isn't doing great or we do need to change, listening to that. And our great farms are the ones that act like a sponge. They're always looking to learn. They're always looking to take on advice and question, what they're doing to hopefully improve. The farms that don't take advice are the ones that are part of that 80% where, we can't change. We can't do that. It's not a good mentality to go with, but as an advisor, you can't just sugarcoat things because it doesn't help anybody in the room. You gotta have those hard conversations.
We are getting close to the top of an hour and a half here, and I don't mind keeping going, but I think we're going to try and expedite some of this a little bit. But thanks for sticking with us. We still got 80% here is from the beginning of the call. Carter Catler says, yeah, I would say a person to add to the team is a tech guru, similar to an agronomist to filter the rubble, a tech person to filter the tech rubble, and what may work for the farm versus just another cool platform. And then Janet Garlino been asking, so for AI, what can you recommend? I know of ChatGPT, but what Excel, and can you expand on platforms? I think we'll probably leave that. On Tuesday, we're having an AI farm show, and we are going to have 3 power users give their top hacks and talk about what they're doing. We're going to keep having that show because I think people need to learn that, but that's probably beyond, I'd say that's beyond the scope of today. Just for timing, apologize, but tune in on Tuesday, Janet. And then, or contact Taylor Phillips if you want to listen to someone talk about AI for an hour and a half on Maverick there. Nick Lee is asking about where do lawyers fit in on the dream team? I see bankers, consultants, accountants, but no lawyers on the panel. Nothing personal, I don't think, but just wanted to hear your take. Courtney, when you assembled this team, I guess it was your...
Courtney, how come?
Courtney?
Yeah, Courtney, no.
Are we in trouble with the
Wanted to keep
Courtney?
the professional fees in check. Yeah.
There's got to be some sort of rule of how many people on one webinar is too many people.
Well, we ran out of money. Let's be real.
There's honestly no lawyers. Every operation needs a lawyer as well, and there's going to be varying levels of involvement with the law firms. If things are frequently moving or changing or evolving, your lawyer is going to be more active in your operation, and if you're kind of more stable and maybe working through the planning side, then maybe not quite as much, and we'll get there. So there's very important part of the team in the puzzle. Maybe not involved in the day-to-day operations discussions quite as much, but I could be wrong there too.
I think we leave them out a little too much, Dan, to be fair. And the reason I say that is you're correct, Courtney. If I mean, you need them for the mortgages and all the big ticket progressive stuff. But I would argue how many on the phone call today have a will? How many have a shareholder agreement? How many have a joint venture or a partnership agreement? Those, or even land rental agreements. I mean, we're so used to doing verbal agreements. Well, guess what, guys? We're multi-million-dollar companies. I don't think Walmart's doing a verbal agreement anymore with anybody. So I'd hate to be sarcastic, but at the same time, these are low hanging fruit that the lawyers would definitely be. So 100%. We've brought a lawyer into the FC cohorts just for that reason. Is what I mean. You're worried. John brought up different spouses and all that stuff. Well, what are we talking about on prenups? What are we talking about on disability and life insurance and all that? So like financial advisors. I mean, there's a million people that could be on this call. That's why agriculture is the way it is. It is highly diverse, guys.
Well, and Ryan Hillstead's chiming in. Hey, Dan, as discussed in the webinar that we did with you a few months ago and Convergence, let's not forget about life insurance placed in this discussion as part of that estate and real estate planning. So that's a tool in the toolbox as well. And Chad Dirksen says, just waiting for AI to catch up, have the soil mapped, full-time agronomists providing VR data for drills, sprayer, and now VR water and irrigation need to compile the data in real time for timely information and execution. I think that's another conversation. But again, I do think that organizations like MNP are going to be able to put that kind of thing together in Maverick and Growlytics. And no doubt they'll be on the cutting edge of that. Dean York commented, it's important to have someone to call the baby ugly if it is. Who's in charge of calling the baby ugly?
You might write that one down.
Yeah, your baby's ugly. And Roberta Gilbreth is saying, in a perfect world, farms would engage with all the ideas discussed today. Likely the biggest challenge is going to be shifting mindset in ag, that having various advisors has an ROI, because what farm managers see is cost first, Brian, and benefit second. So it will take a mindset change, but hopefully this is helped. Deborah and Donald Wayne is saying, I work with, sorry, I lost the chat here. 1 second. I work extensively with AI in regards to soil health. When I look at the trends out of the United States and AI's application to all facets in running a farm, I see a trend in which small, medium-sized farms will see exponential growth. 3 flour mills in the United States are implementing glyphosate-free flour. I have a friend who is a professional chef. He travels to Italy to source ingredients. It sounds yummy. Western Canadian wheat was the premier input for high-quality pasta. That was 15 years ago. Today, zero Western Canadian wheat is used by these manufacturers due to glyphosate content. Look, I think there's just so much opportunity out there. And yeah, Dean York is saying there's always that one guy or girl, LOL. Well, it's 10:28. I don't know. We could probably talk forever, but one thing I wanted to show and reveal for all reward everyone that stayed was very simply, how do I switch this application window? So we had
I can't wait for MNP and Scotiabank to take this.
Yeah.
Go. Corporate, go.
This is what your dream team actually looks like. Thank you for staying towards the end. Roxanne's pretty aggressive leader there, but she's maybe calling.
Said AI knows.
She could probably get away with calling your baby ugly if it meant saving the world, and it was only right there. Everybody's got their macros dialed in on this one. They got six packs galore. I'm just thinking, like, what the heck's going on in farming here? Like, I'm just sort of purveying the whole situation, but it was a fun take on it, and I had a great time. I'm just highly energized by this conversation. I hope you are, and I guess we're hopefully we don't be flippant in saying, it's just easy to go out and get a superhero team, but it is where you spend your time at, and we can spend our time on a lot of things, other than getting smart people in a row to tell us things we don't want to hear. My nutritionist told me I got to set a boundary with my daughter not to bring Easter eggs into the house anymore, that we have a hunt and then I eat them all because it screws up my macros, Evan. You know what I'm talking about. So I didn't want to hear that, but
stats are they're up 44% on cost too. So you're actually saving money, Dan.
That's fair. I'm saving money and I'm staying hopefully relatively thin, but no, it was super fun. We're at time for sure. but I appreciate the conversation. Courtney, do you just want to wrap us up? You're the one that made this happen and brought the team together, even though Roxanne was the leader in the photo. You're the unsung.
I don't question AI. That's totally fair. No, listen, it's been a really good conversation. Obviously, we went in a couple different directions, and that's the power of getting this many people in a room together. There's lots of good ideas. There's lots of different experiences, different. We all, we'd bring something different to the table, and these are the types of conversations that happen when we're all together talking about one specific farm and operation. Is the various different ways that it all can. It's all connected, and big business is complicated, and there's a lot of different things to consider, and bringing a team together around is one way to help you in that. And so again, I'll just leave everyone with just a huge thanks for all of you guys. I know everyone's really busy, and being willing to come into this room together today and have this conversation is very powerful. So I want to thank everybody right here for joining, and everyone who participated in listening and answering questions. And it was a really good conversation today.
Yeah, and before we go, I want to just go around the room really quick and make sure that if anybody wants to contact anybody on the call today, I'm just looking for your email here, but I'm not doing a very good job. Courtney, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, probably email is best. It's my first name dot last name at scotiabank.com. I can throw it in the chat. Actually, maybe is a good idea.
Throw your contacts in the chat. Growlytics. How do we get a hold of you guys? You have a website or something?
Growlytics.ca is probably the most easiest to find us.
Okay, and then Maverick. I mean, find them everywhere on the internet here.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, Dan?
I like it.
Maverickag.com or farmercoach.ca would be the easiest.
Yeah, and get your butts into Farmer Coach would be one of the steps, and then MNP. Well, they're in every little nook and cranny of the prairie, as far as I could tell.
Don't hate phone calls either, so leave the cell number on there too.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say too. I mean, you can start your dream team by calling Courtney. She's the one who put this all together. So proud of you, Courtney. You're killing it.
Well done. Again, appreciate everybody's time. This has been so good.
Thanks so much. My cup is full. Now I guess we just need a dream team for other things in life, but that's another episode. So anyways, appreciate all you folks. Have a great Easter weekend. God bless. And we'll see you in the funny pages.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Everybody. Take care.
Happy Easter. Thanks.
Happy Easter.